I'm here on behalf of the Ministry of VSA to introduce the Public Health Ordinance. But really this is, first of all, I've been in office for almost 2 months. This is really the collective effort of the team that you see assembled here and the rest of the civil service from within the ministry. This is a continuation. This is an effort that's been taking place for a number of years. And I think that the outcome is an outcome that we can all be proud of, and I think it's an outcome that is in the best interests of the people of St. Martin. I think that it serves to protect the health of the residents and visitors of our island. I think that the process for me has been an interesting process. As I've been reading through all of the documentation, I think that it's a healthy process. I noticed, for example, that the addition of the neonatal screening to the legislation is something that came out of the parliamentary debates. I think that's a wonderful addition. So I thank MP Leona Marlin for her contributions. So today, Great, thank you. So today I'm going to handle just sort of a general introduction, because I understand it has been quite some time since the legislation was in Parliament. So I think in particular for the radio, television listeners and for the members in the audience, I think it's good to do a little bit of a brief overview of what the legislation is all about and what its main objectives are. And then the second part of the presentation I will hand over to Fenna Arnell, who will handle the more, let's say, technical parts of the presentation. I'll discuss a little bit about what the ordinance does not regulate, a little bit about the epidemic-prone communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, vulnerable groups, and then I'll turn over the floor to Fenna. The main objective is to protect the health of the population of St. Martin, the residents and visitors in particular, from pandemic diseases that in particular are very quick in terms of its spread rate and very high in terms of its impact on the population. Responses to diseases such as Ebola. Many of us are familiar with the crisis that was happening worldwide a few years ago. And this legislation puts in place tools that allow for proper monitoring, allow the government and the ministry to react in an appropriate manner, and that gives it the tools required to manage crises in particular to the benefits of the country. It also outlines, for example, control for entry of goods, and this is for all types of goods, plants and animals included, but can also be about hazardous chemicals, and also like fruits, vegetables that might be hazardous for the community. So it is really about protecting the people and about protecting the borders of the country. As a tourist destination, we have about 2.5 million people from around the world that visit St. Martin every year. That's from both air and from cruise. And these are people that are global travelers. These are people that interact, I would say, at a high rate with different parts of the world. And therefore, the possibility of transfer rates both to St. Martin and from St. Martin abroad in terms of infectious diseases is high. I remember a case in the media, and this is at the time when they had the scare about Ebola, where there was a nurse, actually Casey Hickox, who was actually treating patients with Ebola in Sierra Leone. And when she returned to the United States, this was obviously at a time when the hype was very high, where the concerns were very high, she refused or objected to being quarantined. In the end, it became a court case where the judge actually in the end decided that she would submit to direct active monitoring. So it's these types of discussions and these types of things that have not been made clear in our legislation that this in particular seeks to address. So for example, when you do have cases that are of a severe nature, that the ministry and that the government has the reporting mechanisms, the tools in place, that it can appropriately respond and react to situations like that.
Well, what I've done last week, I've started visiting the departments that fall under the Ministry of General Affairs. We have not even concluded all of it yet, but it was some interesting discussions that we have had. As it pertains to the fire station, you want specifically on the training?
Yeah, the training accreditation you're looking at.
It's interesting to note that the fire station, the training that is done on St. Martin is the only station that gives the same diplomas, the same accreditation as the firefighters in the Netherlands. So the firefighters trained in St. Martin, once they obtain their diploma, they can get a job in the Netherlands, they can get a job in Curacao, Sabre Station, and Bonaire. What we are also looking at is, in conjunction with the Ministry of Education, to recognize the training that is done for firefighters. Once you're a firefighter, regardless of where you have been trained, you periodically need to go through like a refresher course. That like bond center that they have there, where you see those containers in the background where they can simulate fires and train firefighters how to deal with different fires. So if you have a chemical fire, the kind of gear to wear and how to attack it and whatnot. Discussions ongoing with, there are discussions with the French side that have to send their firefighters, I think, to Guadeloupe. They prefer to keep them on St. Martin. It is cheaper. But also some of the surrounding islands are interested in it, and I've even encouraged them to have discussions with the FCCA, where there too, their crew members would need periodic training or refreshing, and they're interested in the possibilities that we have in St. Martin. What we envision there is, for instance, a cruise ship docks in the morning and leaves in the afternoon. And then the crew who needs training can come in, because it's not like you go in a classroom and sit in there for a couple weeks. It is something that can be done in some hours. So we pick them up, bring them there, train them, and in the afternoon return them to the cruise ship. So it is convenient to them, so that they won't need to be off from their work to be trained. So that is something that will also be worked on. So what we need is to establish locally by the Minister of Education that training facility is then accredited and recognized. And then once that happens, that opens the door for the fire station to be able to render its services to third parties, and in so doing, generate funds for themselves as well.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
That bucket has superpowers.
Powers?
It makes people suddenly appear.
Really? You appeared.
It makes people suddenly appear.
At the right time.
Festive feast from KFC. The taste that brings everyone together. So good.
I'm feeling funny, man. I feel like I'm getting a pain in my chest.
I got this.
You sure?
Yes. It's 30 breaths and 2 compression. Give her air.
Oh, Monique, look, she waking up.
No, Fernand. It is not 30 breaths and 2 compressions. It is 30 compressions and 2 breaths. CPR can be done in 3 simple steps. Step 1, check and call. Step 2, press down or pump. Step 3, blow.
I got it now. It's 30 compression and 2 breaths.
Yes.
Right. CAB.
Bob, I can understand why you're parking so carefully. Of course, when you can get 80% discount on your Be Sure car insurance. But that's overdoing it, Bob.
Are you be sure? Be sure.
Yeah! Oh my, what an inventory list, and so unnecessary. But wait, your home contents are all insured by Be Sure. That means that you determine the amount you want to insure. No inventory list, no hassle.
Are you be sure? Be sure. Need a loan that's quick and easy. Island Finance. Up to 50,000 guineas really easy. Island Finance. For education, a renovation. That's no problem. Yes, it's true. That's not all. They're quick and friendly too. Island Finance. Appliances, vacations, even fix your car. You can depend on Island Finance.
Statements made by the Chief Prosecutor of St. Martin during the EPCO meetings, where people felt offended by certain statements made at that time by the Chief Prosecutor. I briefly, at the reception, was able to exchange some views with the Chief Prosecutor, but I am going to ask for a formal meeting with him to discuss those statements in detail. Yesterday, Parliament passed the law enabling appeals in tax cases up to the highest court, namely the Supreme Court. It is a joint effort by all of the islands to make this facility available to citizens, as is a trend internationally, that one should have the opportunity in more than one instance to appeal decisions. During the discussions in Parliament, and by the way, Parliament passed the law unanimously, a comment was made by Franz Richardson, MP Franz Richardson, relative to when and what can be done to train locals to become fiscal experts, so that they, as far as these cases are concerned, tax cases are concerned, would be able to act and represent people on St. Martin. And I took the opportunity, based on that comment, to mention that I have been thinking very, very seriously about looking into the ways and means to start a law school on St. Martin. I think it's not a luxury. I think when it comes to the development of St. Martin, it's a necessity and should be treated with priority. It would give the opportunity, one, to young people leaving school to embark on an academic training, which has to be an accredited academic training, to get a law degree on St. Martin. It's nothing new. Aruba has one, Curacao has one, and you will note over the years that every year 2 or 3 lawyers, 4 lawyers are produced who are then absorbed in the government apparatus or in the private sector. And if we were doing that for the last 5 years, we would have 25 lawyers now. If I say 5 every year. You have 25 lawyers now, local lawyers, change the face of what you see in court in Phillipsburg, change the look of the entire landscape, and who would not be here only for a temporary time, but permanently. It would give the opportunity to civil servants. It would give them a second chance to acquire an academic training. It would give people outside of government in the private sector also that same second chance to become a lawyer.
Madam Chair, on January 5th, 2016, not too long ago, Parliament received a copy of the same legislation which was recently adopted by the Parliament of Curaçao on page 3 of the advice of the Raad van Advies, that is from Curaçao. The government of Curaçao was advised to conduct a publicity campaign to inform the general public of the possibilities to appeal the tax inspector's decision, including fines. On page 9 of the toelichting, the government of Curaçao agrees to conduct such campaign and how to finance the publicity campaign. The question would be, has this suggestion been taken over by the government of St. Martin? Many other laws have been adjusted as a result of the legislation. Question, how can we be sure that all the necessary laws have been changed to reflect the working of this new piece of legislation? Most importantly, can anyone venture as a guess as to what might be the result of the failure to adjust some of the other pieces of legislation which also should have been adjusted also with this? Madam Chair, this is supposed to be an eenvermol landsverordening, meaning that it should be the same for all countries of the kingdom. Has Legal Affairs checked this legislation to see if it corresponds to the same law in Aruba and Curaçao? Madam Chair, another question. If our law deviates from the one passed on Curaçao and Aruba, what are such differences? Why do they exist? Madam Chair, the one from, if I'm not mistaken, we have just received the one from Curaçao. The version of this law a few days ago. Has Parliament, Legal Affairs had the time to compare this package, which includes the comments of the Curaçao Raad van Advies, with our proposed law? Also, Madam Chair, this law changes many other laws. For example, Article 7 of the LAR, yet Parliament does not have those other pieces of legislation before us in order for Parliament to do a proper job of evaluating the legislation before it. Question, is the Parliament supposed to proceed trusting the government and the legal affairs have done their jobs properly? Madam Chair, while I agree this is a very important piece of legislation, seeing how important it is that the population is properly informed, can this legislation be available also in English? From my good colleague, I know who sits in front of me here, MP Christopher Emmanuel. Madam Chair, another question. In the LAD, we know that legal aid is available to those who cannot afford the cost. Is such a provision taken into account in this law? And if not, why not? Another question, Madam Chair. There is talk of hiring judges from Holland with tax experience. What are the possibilities of Country St. Martin offering some of our youngsters, or perhaps some of our local lawyers, the possibility of training to become tax court judges?
So what's your idea of holiday happiness? Watching the kids open presents? Cooking in our new kitchen? The look on his face. Add to your holiday happiness with a loan from Scotiabank, and you could win a trip for two to Miami and other great prizes. Visit your Scotiabank branch today and talk to a representative about getting your loan. Contest ends January 15th. Conditions apply. Scotiabank. Discover what's possible.
Prosecutor's presentation of the court that was delivered in their presentation to IPCO. I think it was unfortunate that the type of information that came out publicly, that it was reported somewhat in a dangerous manner of the image of St. Martin. I think it's unfortunately that that type of information was given out. I don't know if it was in good intentions or bad intentions to embarrass St. Martin, but it sure did send the wrong message, and the information that was given out, I don't think it was well received in our community, the way it was given out for St. Martin. I think the facts and the figures, we as members of Parliament now needs to seriously look and question that information. Because when I take a look and listen to a legal representative of those establishments, the information that he is saying that was brought forward was totally wrong, and the way it was brought forward, it was basically as if blacklisting St. Martin. And I think it's unfortunate that that came out that way. I think that was the only, I would say, blemish from me, my part, attending the IPCO with the type of information that was given out. And that information is information that, even if it's true or false, the Dutch would always use it against St. Martin's image. While they have seen what is being done on this island, but they will never highlight that. But the little negativity that they considered, they choose to highlight in their big media. And I think it's unfortunate that that transpired at IPCO. So those are my remarks that I would like to bring forward, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, congratulations to the field and support staff for the work that they did. Of course, I think the devil is always in the details, and I would have never signed this document. And I clearly indicated that in the meeting because I believe it is unfair to say that the delegations were disappointed about the progress that the government levels have made in reaching the agreement of the Kaskillen-Rekening. The reason why I'm saying that is because 3 of the governments were willing, Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin. The only one that was not willing was Holland. And I'm saying, if we're going to put this in a document, we're either going to specify that it's Holland, or we're not going to put it there, because I am not disappointed in any one of the governments from Curacao, St. Martin, or Aruba, because they did their part. So I wanted to definitely voice my concern about that again, because I do not believe that we should be reflected because Holland said so, because that was in their document, and it was touched up, twisted around, but said the same thing about a disappointment. And I am not disappointed in the government. I'm actually disappointed in Holland and their minister not doing the work that they were supposed to do, that we agreed to for May 2015. That's number one. Number two, when it came to the healthcare issue, and they complained about transportation between Statia, particularly in this case, and St. Martin, and that we should put a helipad on the hospital or close to the hospital, but never said one day, well, hey, can I contribute to this as well? Because St. Martin doesn't really need a helipad, does it? We've been transporting our patients in accidents for many years just by ambulance. And if they're going to insist that, or even propose that we put a helipad, they should also put their money where their mouth is.